Приветствую. Здравствуйте. Hello there. It's me, a person, and today we're going to continue playing visual novel Scien Virche, Era Salvation. Translated to English as Virche Evermore, or Salvation, which of course makes much more sense. An angsty visual novel about dating charming cute boys. And today we're continuing and maybe even finishing Scien Brofiise route. I want to greet everyone who came here today. I want to greet Vampur. It's an honor to have you. I want to greet MC Klopp, whom I suppose I've seen in the chat, among those who quietly sit in there. And I hope you greet Lost Heart here as well. Though I'm not sure. Which is fine. Okay. Okay, I'll check music once again when I'll be in the in-game music, because music during the gameplay is fairly different from how loud it is in the main menu, title menu. In previous series, we have seen as Scien Brofiise was charged as guilty for creating defected relivers' bodies, which caused a wave of death across the archipelago, and all of that is clearly inspired by someone, maybe, as we can assume, even someone who has Scien's looks. And as we know, royal family of Arpeshel has definitely something to do with this. Maybe as a mere tools of the real perpetuator and mastermind behind all this evil. Maybe as the real masterminds, or at least some of them. We, our protagonist Ceres, as well as members of the Korun and Core, went to the Institute to serve Scien to the best of our abilities. We, as an automated sandwich dispenser, and members of Core as guards. But unfortunately, when Scien got blamed for everything and attacked by both royal guards and even Bourreau himself, we found ourselves in quite a predicament, and at the end, during the fight with Bourreau, he smashed his halberd at the floor of the Institute, which created a hole that took the body and maybe, who knows, even the life of Scien. As it says on the screen where we ended, he fell into the darkness with Bourreau. Scien! I looked down into the hole, but it was so dark that I couldn't see a thing.
まずいな。どうやらブローもシアンさんを狙っているみたいだ。
We need to go and save him.
分かってる。どうやら地下に落ちてったみたいだな。迂回する時間はねえし。
ここから降りていくしかないかな。ヒューゴ、ロープは持っているよね。それを使おう。
ああ、分かった。
I want to go too. I mean, Scien might be injured down there. Hello, people. Hello, club. Sorry, my bad. How's the day was treating you both? Vampur, club? And you're going to need someone to watch over Scien if you two end up fighting Bourreau.
ああ、まあ、難しいかもな。
I understood well enough that I might actually be a burden. Even so,
俺と共にいたいからと言えばいい。簡単に言えば、お前は俺に情を抱いているのだろう。
I couldn't leave Scien behind and run to safety without telling him my answer. Sorry, says Club. I was just discussing things with my co-players. Everything turns out to be a really good setup for now. That's nice, so there is nothing to be sorry about. No need to apologize. It seemed like I was able to somehow avoid death from that fall. Instead, I fell into strange colored liquid. My clothes were wet, but fortunately my bones weren't broken.
ブローはいないな。落下の衝撃でどこかに吹っ飛んでいったか。しかし、ここはどこだ？
I knew I must be somewhere under the institute. Even so, I wasn't aware of this place.
なんだここは。研究所にこんな施設があったなんて知らないぞ。それにこの機材、以前廃棄処分したものだな。これ単体だと機能しないはずだが、ということは、どこかに部品を横流しされたのか。
It seems I needed to investigate this once I regained control of the institute. As I thought on my next steps, I heard a sound. The sound of someone splashing through the strange liquid.
ふん。やはり無傷か。
After confirming my existence, Buro readied his halberd. I didn't have any more explosives on me.
相手は獲物を持っている上に、こちらは丸腰。どこまで持つかはわからないが、やるしかないか。
I slowly got into position again, against the monster looming in front of me. Going down the hall using the rope was a lot more strenuous than we thought. Sorry, I have a call. I'll be back soon. My apologies. I'm sorry. It it was just something relatively urgent. But yeah. Slope says, and today was silly. I visited most classes because the turnstile could be bypassed. In third class, we were shamelessly sitting in the yard. And then, on the last class, our teacher was really tired and didn't want to see my lab, so he smiled and sent me back until Wednesday. It's fine actually, I should have come to him today, but it's really not a big deal. I may be even more prepared after tomorrow. Then, as long as everything is fine, everything is fine. Yeah. It took 10 or some minutes to finally get down to the bottom of the hole. The first thing I felt when touching the ground wasn't dirt, but something cold.
水の中に瓦礫が散らばっているから足元に気をつけて。
Okay. A large passage with strange water flowing through it. I didn't recall Scien ever telling me such a place existed under the Institute. I looked around, but Scien was nowhere in sight. The only thing I saw was a passage with running water and some kind of device stuck against the wall. Where could Scien and Buro have gone?
ここに落ちたのは間違いないんだけどね。戦いの形跡もちょっとあるし。
おい、こっちに血痕が残ってるぞ。割と新しいものだから二人のうちのどちらかだと思うが。
Clove adds, and he was not mad or annoyed at me, just wanted these things to be done earlier. And he figured out that we were kicking our own heels because I'm remarkable and loud, and he's seen me in the halls of the uni. You are remarkable. I'm not sure about loud, but you are remarkable. Hugo waved his hand and called out to us after going deeper into the passage to investigate. Which means Scien in that way. We looked at each other and followed the blood marks on the wall through this place that looked like the inside of a human body. My clothes were drenched and heavy. Even so, I did my best to get moving so that I could find him. He's okay. Scien said he's fended off assassins before, so I'm sure he'll be fine even against Buro. I kept convincing myself as I ran, and just as I turned the corner, the water flowing below us turned a brownish red. In the middle of the area was someone silently standing in the darkness. Buro. The halberd in his hand was painted crimson, and the owner of the blood who was down in front of him was... Scien!
遅かった。
With my scream, Eve and Hugo readied their swords. Eve quickly glanced at Hugo, then made the first move. Sensing danger, Buro swiftly swung his weapon behind him. Eve crouched to somehow avoid the slash that would have sliced him in two. A powerful gust from the slash ran the passage, and a part of the string holding Eve's mask tore from the halberd. Eve broke into cold sweat, knowing he was close to death. But he continued his assault, planting his left leg and spinning his body with his sword in hand. Using the momentum, he landed a powerful blow. Buro must not have expected such an attack from Eve, whose looks were deceiving. Buro blocked the attack with his halberd, but the sword struck so hard that he was blown back quite a bit. I finally came to my senses, seeing them exchange their flurry of attacks that rocked the area. I have to get to Scien now. Hugo and I quickly headed to Scien and shook him awake. I quickly looked at his face, but it was completely pale and lifeless. I looked at his abdomen and saw a huge wound with blood pouring out. I quickly used both my hands to dry and stop the bleeding, but it wasn't doing much. Scien! Scien! He's alive. We need to get you out of here and... Eve was blown against the ball, which crumbled to pieces from the impact. Eve must have been knocked unconscious, as there was no movement underneath the wall rubble. No longer concerned about Eve, Boro began his stride toward us. He repositioned his halberd and was ready to strike.
後ろに下がってろ。俺が時間を稼ぐから、なんとかそいつと逃げて。
A breeze. In a blink of an eye, Boro spat past Hugo. Without a chance to prepare myself, we quickly closed on me and Scien. Nothing stood in Boro's way now. He raised his halberd high with the intent of cleaving the two of us and... Scien! I instinctively embraced Scien and closed my eyes. After all, I didn't have the courage to see myself being cut in two. No pain and no heat. Instead, I heard the clenching of metal. I slowly opened my eyes to discover...
俺の雑用係に何をする?
He awoke and blocked the destructive halberd. Scien?
それ以外の何に見える?
He was alive. You're alive. Scien, you're alive.
勝手に殺すな。まあ、それも時間の問題だが。
The iron rod he used to block the attack. There was no chance he could remain unscathed from Boro's colossal power. Scien bones creaked and let out a horrible wail. But for some reason, Boro's arm relaxed slightly after Scien protected her, as if in unison. An organic mechanic sound unfitting of the situation began to play. I wondered why it was coming from Eve's chest when he was knocked out cold. Somehow the sound did wonders. Everyone here, even Boro, was fixated on the sound, not moving a muscle. And then...
助けてくれ。シスターサロメの養護施設がこのままじゃみんな。
The curtains of despair rose, not from the scream of humans, but a mechanical sound. Klopp says, I absolutely am. It's just that I've been suppressing my voice for most of my life. I may be stealthy if I'm alarmed and focused enough.
我々が年老いる前に命を散らすのも、感情が欠落した不自然な生命体に転生せざるを得ないのも、すべてはブロフィワーズ家のせいだ。
Salome and the children at the orphanage were listening to the voice coming from the speaker, completely stunned.
あの男がすべての元凶。
ねえマム、あのおじちゃん悪い人だったの？意地悪なおじちゃんだったけど、私が壊した腕飾りのこと許してくれたのに。
そうね。一つだけ言えるとしたら、あのおじちゃんは悪人ではあるけど、今の放送で言っていたようなことはしてないわ。
やっぱそうだよね。よかった。
どうしてそんなに あのおじちゃんのことを気にするの？
だって私まだおじちゃんに腕飾りのことごめんなさいしてないもん。私が悪かったのにおじちゃんが悪い人だったら捕まっちゃうでしょ。そしたらごめんなさいできなくなっちゃうから。おじちゃん大丈夫かな？
マム、みんな無事か？
Suddenly, Adolphe came in with a serious look on his face. Next to him, remembers
ア
of
ドル
his
フお
horror.
兄ちゃんおかえりなさい。お仕事はもう終わったの？
ああ、よかった。この辺りはまだ落ち着いてるようだな。
さっきの放送を聞いていたけれど、あの男どんな揉め事を起こしたのかしら。
研究所で何かあったのかもしれない。最近内部でも分裂が起こってるしな。
I'll remind here because I accidentally
変な
missed that
抗議
part.
活動は最近ずっとあったけど、王族にまであんな風に言われるなんて。
研究所で何かあったのかもしれない。最近内部でも分裂が起こってるしな。
アドルフ、なぜあなたがそんなことを知っているの？
いや、それは。
シスターサロメが経営する養護施設はここか。
サロメは確かに私ですが、何用でしょうか？
Salome did her best to respond resolutely, as Adolphe and the others protected her. The man standing in the back suddenly glared at Salome.
この施設に住む者が死神と共謀していることが判明した。よって見せしめとしてこれよりそなたたちを粛清する。
粛清？死神と共謀って一体どういうこと？
そなたたちがかつてシアン・ブロフィワーズと共謀しクーネにて騒ぎを起こしたことは知っている。我らの目を欺こうとしたようだが通用せぬぞ。
ブローの件なら変死事件の謎を追うためにしたことだ。
ではこの施設の娘や自警団がシアン・ブロフィワーズの護衛をしていることはどう説明する？それこそそなたたちが共謀している証拠ではないのか？
あの男を護衛？どういうことなの、アドルフ？
それは。
とにかくそなたたちとこれ以上話すことはない。この国の本当の支配者は誰なのか、それをそなたたちの命をもってして国民へと知らしめるのだ。
マム、お前らさっさと逃げろ。
The children made a run for it as Adolphe and the others guarding their escape. But Salome would not move a step away from Adolphe.
マム、早く逃げろ。
何よそれ。そんな説明だけで納得しろというの？私たちの命が奪われるというのに、何の罪もない民を苦しめるこの国に救う寄生虫が偉そうに。お前らの方がよほど死神だろう。
おい
貴様、よくも国家反逆罪として粛清してくれるわ。
The Royal drew his sword after hearing Salome's statement and after that, we met up with Mathis and Jean, who took us by car to the orphanage. We wanted to see what was really happening after Eve received a message to his transmitter that the orphanage was in danger.
皆さん、体は大丈夫ですか？傷だらけですけど。一応生きてる。
右に同じだ。
We have to get you patched up once we get to the orphanage, since I can only do so much inside the car.
できる状況ならいいんだがな。
An ominous anxiety swirled in my mind as they continued tending to everyone's wounds. That message, something must have happened to Mother and the children. Please be safe.
それにしてもまさかブローが生きていたなんてさすがに驚いたよ。
I never expected to hear that name again. Matthew's expression went stern. Since we were in his car, we explained to Mathis and John what happened at the institute. We explained that Scien was blamed as death. We were attacked by Buro.
でもなんでブローは俺たちを逃がしてくれたんだろうな。途中から明らかに様子がおかしかったが。
それもわからないけど、あの地下通路が海辺につながっているのには驚いたよ。
After the message from the transmitter, we continued through the passage and ended up at the beach near the licorice field. It was there that we happened upon John.
あれには俺も驚きました。あ、そうそう。その時にこんなものを拾いましたよ。
John passed on some papers as he steered the car with one hand. It looked like it was a newspaper, but this one had fewer pages, almost like an extra edition. Huh? It's about you, Scien. It not only went on about how Scien was death, it described the horrific condition in the laboratory and the hideous monster kept in the underground laboratory. What the? It has a bunch of things that aren't even true.
シアンさん、このことについて心当たりはありますか？
実験室については事実だが、おぞましい怪物とかいうのは知らんな。そもそも地下施設があることすら初めて知った。
なるほど。
きっと王家としてはシアン様に全てを押し付けたいんでしょうね。先ほどの放送といい、そうとしか考えられません。だから何も知らない人がこれを読んだら
全てシアンさんの仕業だと思うだろうな。
That's horrible. However, Scien didn't show any concern at all.
とにかくまずは施設だ。あの女たちの安否を確かめるぞ。
He then slowly closed his eyes. We arrived at the orphanage to discover a lot of other cars parked outside. Mother, everyone! I couldn't complete my sentence. No, the place I called home. The warm home that was a symbol of peace. It was now painted red.
これは
No, no, no! The children lying face down on the floor couldn't be real. I quickly embraced one of the girls in a pool of blood. Just hanging there. See, the Minnie is here too. The girl I embraced was the same girl who came with me to clean Scien's room. She was so cute with how her expressions constantly changed. But now her face looked hollow, and her cute voice was silent. It wasn't just her. The living, breathing children I had once known were dead in the garden, and the smell of fresh blood permeated the air. My mother, Adolphe, her family.
逃げようとしたところをやられたという感じですね。
シスターと自警団のメンバーがいないな。通信機で連絡を取ってくれたのは自警団のやつだったよな。
うん。無事な人がいるかもしれない。この衛兵たちも見当たらないし、まだこの中にいるかも。
やめて、その子には手を出さないで。
I heard a voice like a scream coming from inside.
今の声は
Mother! Before I knew it, I was running into the orphanage. I wouldn't lose anyone else. I would protect my family with my life.
王家を侮辱する者に鉄槌よ
But rage and resolve weren't enough. Adolphus' hat fell. Uh-huh. I didn't understand this scene unfolding before my eyes. Two things I did know. One, Adolphus' body was pinned to the floor by some men with their hands tied behind his back. Two, a sword was swung down onto his neck. His head rolled. His head, which was on his body just moments before, spewed blood as it rolled to my feet. Adolphe? I slowly went down to my knees to pick up my dear brother. What? What just happened? I embraced his head and looked around the orphanage to see blood all over the place. I saw a number of the core members dead, with stab wounds all over their bodies. I assumed the person who was trying to contact us was alone among the dead.
そんなアドルフ。おい、嘘だろ。
Eve and Hugo. I was finally brought back to reality by the heartbroken voices of Adolphus' friends. He was dead. Adolphe was dead. He was decapitated. He was killed. Sister Saloma screamed with Sarah's as she was restrained at the back of the room by the soldiers.
いい君だこの男そなたを人質にした途端抵抗すらしなくなったなサロメよこの男を殺したのは我らではない王族たる我に暴言を吐いたそなただ
ふざけるなお前たちは私からまた奪うのか大事な家族を大切な人を
Saloma's body shook with rage as she struggled to free herself from the elf guard. But she was no match for the group of soldiers pushing her to the floor under their weight.
閣下この女はどうしますかご要望の通り特等席で男が殺されるところを見せてやりましたが
Hello, lady. Thank you for coming. How are you doing there?
そうだなもう用はないから処分しておけそなたたちの好きにして構わんただ新たな客が来てくれたようだなしかも死神までご来訪くださるとはそちらも丁重にもてなすように
It's good that... It's nice to hear that you're fine. Will you take some sleep soon? I'd like you to take care of your bodily needs. You need to get enough sleep, enough food, enough hydration. Otherwise, you will turn into a horrific creature resembling someone like me. It's not a good fate. The royal and his men were gloating, likely because they had Salome as hostage. It seemed to be working as Eve and Hugo had their swords drawn, but weren't moving. Ceres was in even worse state. Adolphe. Her foster brother's sudden death left her in a daze, motionless. Adolphe's hollow eyes were looking up at Ceres. Lies. This can't be true. Adolphe is always by my side. He's a strong person.
撤退するぞ
Ceres continued to reject reality as Scien lifted her, Adolphe's head, up into his arms.
しかしそれではシスターが。
言っておくが、それ以上こちらに近づいたらこの女も命はないぞ。
A huge pole flew through the window and struck one of the soldiers holding down Salome. The Loma turned out to be a halberd. The weapon that couldn't be lifted by several men completely crushed the soldier's body into a bloody mess.
なんだこれは。
Late.
このハルバード、まさか。
Just as Mathis yelled, Burro crashed through the ceiling and landed in the room. He grabbed the halberd stuck in the middle of the pool of blood and quickly rent another soldier in two.
シスター、こっちへ。
When she was released by her captors, Hugo quickly lifted Salome into his arms. Scien and the others slowly moved back to the entrance. As for Burro, he turned and pointed his halberd at the men and his soldiers.
撤退だ。
They didn't have the strength or the means to fight such a formidable foe and quickly made haste to flee the scene. Scien and the others looked on as the royal and his soldiers left. In Scien's arms. Why? Why is this happening? Scien was holding Adolphus' hat and repeating the same words over and over again in a trembling voice. Scien was quietly looking at her without any expression. Soon after, Burro quietly took his leave. Scien and the others stood in the orphanage, dominated by the smell of blood. This wasn't a dream. The lives that were taken would not return. Not even through the miracle of God.
「痛みがひどい。呼吸ができない。ああ、自分はもうすぐ死ぬのか。悲願を叶えられぬまま、こんな場所で苦しい。あなたのことだけが心残りだ。会いたいよ、母上。
Also, hello, MLBK. I can see you lurking. Feel free to say something if you wish. If not, feel free to stay quiet. The cleanup at the institute went much faster than expected.
ダハトさん、爆弾によって破壊された扉の修繕が完了しました。
うわ、ありがとうございます。ちなみに廊下に開いた大穴はどうです？地下まで貫通していたみたいですけど。
そこは工事の予定を入れておきました。今は立ち入り禁止にして閉鎖しています。通路は迂回すれば問題ないかと。それと幸い研究設備は爆発に巻き込まれなかったので、研究は問題なく続けられるかと思います。
そうならよかったです。まあシアンさんならそこに被害を与えることはないだろうと思ってましたけど。ああ、そうそう、シアンさんがしていた研究なんですけど、資料をすべて僕に回してくれませんか？
え？はい。でもダハトさんの研究には必要ないんじゃ。
何言ってるんですか。所長として元研究員の仕事をチェックするのは当然のことですよ。今は必要ないかもですけど、僕たちの研究に活用できるかもしれません。研究に無駄なことなんて何もないんですよ。
確かにその通りですね。すぐに回しますので少々お待ちください。
The researcher quickly left with sparkling eyes, moved by the hut's cleverness. The hut had become the new director of the institute and was now being looked up to by the researchers working there. At the same time, the others with their own motives for working with him.
新所長殿、調子はどうですかな？
A royal family member appeared with the royal guard. He smiled the moment he saw the hat.
ああ、どうも。王族の方にお越しいただけるなんて光栄です。今日はご視察でしょうか？
まあ、そのようなものだな。
あ、先日はご兄弟の命を救えなくて申し訳ございませんでした。
ああ、それなら気にすることはない。シアンを消す手伝いができたのだから、あいつだって本望だろう。
そうですか。つまりあの王族の命が失われるのは予定通り。国内放送といい、新聞といい、随分と用意周到だな。新聞に書かれていたおぞましい怪物もシアンさんが作ったものじゃないのに、勝手にそういうことにされちゃったし。
The entire scheme must have been approved by the king, Benoit Evermore. The Hut was strangely impressed that he came up with such a plan, despite being so stupid.
ところで、新所長殿はどういう研究方針なのですかな？
えそれはもちろん前々からご説明していた通り、感情のメモリーに尽力できればと。僕たちは命の入れ物を作りたいのではなくて、ちゃんとした人間を作りたいので。
The man took a deep breath. The Hut expected him to say something along the lines of making stronger bodies to fight the curse instead of wasting resources, but
素晴らしい。ぜひとも完成させていただきたい。
The man unexpectedly gave his full support to the Hut.
我々王族もシアンが所長だった時以上に援助をすると約束しましょう。もちろん我々にも見返りをくれるととても嬉しいのだが。
どうも。
The Hut forced a smile on his face as a certain thought crossed his
こ
mind.
れ完全に僕に取り入ろうとしているよね。シアンさんの時はここまで露骨じゃなかったのに。舐められてるのかな。まあ見た目も若いし、僕もこういう性格だからそう思われても仕方ないか。あ、でも一言だけ言っておかなきゃ。それはそうと、養護施設の一つを見せしめに潰したと聞きましたが、それは本当ですか？
ああ、シアンに協力した一派のことか。それだったらほとんど粛清したはずだ。肝心のシアンたちには逃げられてしまったが、奴らが捕まるのも時間の問題だろう。新所長殿が気にかける必要はない。
そうですか。国民を殺したことに何の罪悪感も抱いていないんだ。
A grave scene had been committed that dragged Ceres and others into the turmoil.
でも今さら後には引けないよね。それにきっとシアンさんなら。
The Hut firmly clenched his fist out of sight of the rock. He simply needed to finish what had been put into motion. What had been put into motion until the very end. Also, I hope my loyal sword bearers fought that despicable creature who invaded my chat. Thanks. I appreciate your help. An old abandoned house located on the outskirts of the country. I couldn't seem to recall clearly why I was here.
シアンさん、容体はどうだ？結構出血してたみたいだが。
今は問題ない。下手に動けば傷口が開くだろうが。
At the far end of the room was a large bed, and on it was Scien covered with bruises and wounds. I remembered he lost consciousness the moment he got here, after taking a horrible beating from Brofiise. He somehow survived, but it took a few hours for him to be able to talk like this again. As for the one who inflicted those wounds, Boro hadn't shown himself even ever since.
ところで、黒土家の奴らはどうした？さっきから姿が見えないが。
彼らなら屋敷に返しました。あそこなら潜伏もできるでしょうし、食料も潤沢にあるみたいなので、一応通信機も持たせてあるので、逐一連絡するようにはします。
生き残った自警団とも連絡だけは取り合うことにしてる。潜伏するにしても情報は欲しいからな。
そうか。
Was their conversation over? A heavy silence filled the air. Everyone was looking at me and Mother. As for Mother, she was looking at the person she took from my arms and now cradled in hers. Adolphe.
嘘よ。あの子が死んだなんて嘘よ。嘘。
But he wasn't a person anymore. It was Adolphe's hat, evidence of a tragedy that his family could no longer pretend was merely a nightmare. Mother and I, we were unable to move even a muscle.
本当に死んでしまったんだね。
ああ。
もう彼と手合わせもできないなんて。
Hugo quietly patted Eve on the shoulder as he looked down at the floor. Everyone apart from Scien was unable to accept the sudden departure of someone they knew too well. But it wasn't only Adolphe who passed away in a way that we didn't expect. I couldn't make their graves. The children, I left them all back at the orphanage. I couldn't even give them a single prayer. They're supposed to be my family.
セレス。
I recalled everything the moment I closed my eyes. The children lying dead everywhere, and the member of the Corps who tried to protect them. The pungent smell of blood, and Adolphe's body forced down to the floor. Adolphe's head rolling to my feet upon his decapitation. So why? Why can't I shed even a single tear? My eyes were completely dry, and they hadn't been blinking much as they glazed into the air. I felt nothing. Why? Was it because I was so used to spreading misfortune and seeing death? I don't want to be strong like this. I don't want my strength. So God, please, return Adolphe and the others to me. I was unable to cry with Mother, even when my dear foster brother and the rest of my family died. I was such a cold person.
いい加減にしろ。
I raised my head a bit, hearing his firm voice. I looked at the bed to discover Scien with his back straight up, looking down at us slumped in our seats.
泣き言を言う前にそいつの首を埋めてやった方がいいと思うがな。そのままだと腐るぞ。
Mother and I looked at her hands upon hearing his calm voice. Adolphe was looking up at her with the same hollow eyes as earlier. Perhaps the others couldn't bear seeing him like that any longer.
そうだね。そうしてあげよ
う。シスター、辛いでしょうが。
嫌よ。
Hugo reached out to Mother, but she embraced Adolphe's head as if to protect him.
アドルフはまだ死んでなんかいない。脳さえあれば、まだリライバーとして生き返れるかもしれないじゃない。この子は私の大切な子よ。施設から唯一連れ出してあげられたのに、また殺すなんて。それにこんなところにアドルフを埋めるなんてかわいそうよ。この子が一人ぼっちになってしまう。だからいや、絶対に嫌よ。
お前も知っているだろう。一度失われてしまった命は戻らない。 バックアップがなければ無理だ。
でもアドルフは
シスター・サロメ、まだ綺麗な状態を保っている今、供養してあげてください。俺たちだって友人が見るに耐えない姿になっていくところは見たくないんです。
There is no good end here, I suppose, Club. She held tight to his head, but without any real strength. Eve gently reached out to Adolfo to set him free from Mother's arms. Mother screamed to have him back, but upon looking into Adolfo's eyes, she fell to the floor in tears. Mother, Mother, I'm so sorry, Mother. I embraced her from behind and apologized repeatedly. It's my fault. This happened because I involved Adolf and everyone else at the orphanage. My selfish apology didn't reach anyone. It didn't matter whether Death, who spread misfortune, repented for her crimes. Those lives that had been lost would never ever return. A few hours later, Eve and the others buried Adolfo in the garden. A burial without a tombstone. We couldn't even give him a proper burial, since the tombstone might give away our location. I just hope I could take him back to the orphanage someday.
それじゃ俺たちは隣の部屋で休んでいるから、何かあったらすぐに呼んで。
Okay. Mother fell unconscious after crying and screaming, and was taken to another room to rest. Eve and the others headed to each other of their rooms, tired and burned out. Scien must also have reached his limit, as he fell asleep again on the bed next to me. Considering our situation, we should really discuss our next course of action. No one in the house had the strength or spirit left in them to do so. That applied to me as well. Without the strength to even move, I simply slouched in the corner of the room alone. On the floor were fresh blood stains. I assumed they were from the blood that dripped from Adolfo's neck. It's my fault. I killed Adolfo. If only I didn't suggest that we look after Scien. It's all my fault. I kept repeating the same words. I don't know. I can't think. What should I have done? My eyes were still dry, preventing me from shedding even a single tear. I wasn't sure how many hours had passed. Anko's face here. Well, yeah. It seemed I fell asleep. I quickly awoke when I heard a sound coming from nearby. I looked around from where I was sitting on the floor. Scien was groaning in pain on the bed. The dim light in the room showed him gritting his teeth, with sweat rolling down his forehead. Scien? I slowly stood and looked at Scien's face. He looks like he's in pain. I want to help him. I hated how he could come to this thought despite everything that happened. After all, if I didn't have that desire to stay by Scien's side, Adolf and everyone might not have died. It would be so much simpler if I could just curse him for what happened. If only I could hate him for dragging me into his mess. But... Scien, are you alright? No matter what, I couldn't leave this person with his straightforward eyes. Before I knew it, I was gently wiping Scien's forehead with my handkerchief. His eyelids twitched, then slowly opened.
お前か。
Scien turned his head in my direction, struggling to fix his eyes upon me. His vivid reliever eyes showed a reflection of my golden hair in a different color. Your wounds might be swollen. If you don't mind, let me take a look. Scien left himself in my care without putting up a fight. I wondered if he was worried that I might harm him out of resentment. And again, I didn't have the strength to feel such a powerful emotion right now. I slowly removed the sheet and his clothes. Thinking his hairpin might get away, I removed that too, as expected. The bandages wrapped around his abdomen were wet with blood. I'm going to remove the bandages so that... Huh? I tried to deny what I was seeing. I expected his wounds from his flesh against Buro to be bad, but what stood out was more than those wounds. Were the scars all over his body. Judging by the color of his skin around those scars, I assumed they were inflicted a long time ago. Scien, about those?
醜いと思うか。
Scien must have noticed my confusion as he chuckled cynically.
別に誰かにやられたわけじゃない。自分自身で必要だからやっただけだ。新たなリライバーを作るための実験だ。
Why? What do you mean?
死刑囚による実験で大体のデータが揃ったら、まずは自分の体を乗り換えて研究の結果を試していた。だが今回は失敗だった。肺の強化をした結果、致命的な欠陥を抱えてしまった。
On his body? Which meant...
どこのバカがあのデータを勝手に使った。
どういうことだよ。
どうも何も言葉通りだ。研究所の誰かが試作段階のデータを使ってご親切にもこいつをリライバーにしたんだ。あれは試作段階の上副作用があるというのに。
Yeah, self-experimentation. Don't tell me. The side effects you were talking about back then? He nodded to confirm my suspicions as I put new bandages on his body.
俺が今使っているのは肺機能を強化し、呪いの症状を通常より表面化しにくくしているものだ。だが、呼吸のたびに負担がかかり、かなりの激痛を伴う。それこそ軟弱な王族では耐えきれんほどの。俺が常に平静を保っているのは、薬や手術で副作用を抑え込んでいたからだ。だからこそ、自分以外には使われないよう隠匿していたんだが、どこかのバカに見つかって、このざまだ。
So that's what happened. But why did you try it on yourself? Your experimentations are painful, so why didn't you test the criminals instead? I knew Cinza was morally repugnant, but my question was based on efficiency.
確かにそうするのが合理的なのだろう。だが人を生かすという目標は俺が掲げたものだ。ならば払うべき代償は俺自身が真っ先に払うべきだろう。すべては俺のエゴなのだから。
He was right. He was working to create relivers that could fight the curse of death. Scien wasn't simply forcing others to sacrifice themselves. Scien. He has experimented on his own body to develop relivers with stronger lungs to suppress the effects of the curse. This has resulted in severe pain, coupled with difficulty in breathing, which he suppresses with strong mental fortitude, medicine, and performing operation on himself.
まあ、今まさに無関係な死を生み出した身で、偉そうに言えることではないが。
My thoughts froze when I heard the words he said. He must be referring to Adolphe and the children. Suddenly, I felt emotions starting to flow from deep inside, along with a sense of sorrow that made me want to vomit, but my lips were shut so tightly that I couldn't.
恨み事を言わないのか？俺に関わりさえしなければ、お前の家族が処刑されることもなかっただろうに。
But I don't know.
はあ？
Scien, you said it yourself. I was the one who wanted to stay by your side. If that resulted in what happened, then it means I was the one who killed the dolphin and the others. I thought I could always stand beside Scien's strength and determination to fight the curse. I thought that would make me forget that I caused misfortune as death. Which is why I don't have the right to hold a grudge against you, Scien.
やめろ。
He suddenly pulled me by the arm. I was enveloped in the heat of his body from his fever. From above, I heard the voice of God who didn't bend even against death.
結果を変えられないことで、あれこれ責任を問うのは非生産的だ。それより、今後のことを考えろ。
Priorities. I understood very well that he didn't say these calm words out of kindness. So, why? I know what you're saying, but what am I? What are we going to do? Why did I want to hear his answer so much?
決まっている。研究所の奪還だ。俺は人類を救うための研究をやめるつもりはない。それに、売られた喧嘩は買う主義だ。何より、そろそろ体を乗り換えないと寿命がまずい。今死ぬわけにはいかないからな。
Scien sounded like he was in pain, but he still spoke with conviction. I knew. He didn't even hint at trying to seek vengeance. But I wasn't the only one who lost everything. Why? Why are you putting in so much efforts and trying so hard? This country betrayed you. The people you were trying to save denounced you and are trying to blame you for everything. Haven't you done enough? I'm sure Dad will take over the reliable research. So, please, you don't have to put up a fight anymore, Scien. Спасибо, Вампи. Я буду благодарен. I didn't want someone like him taken away from me. That was my earnest plea, but
いや、ある。
his firm voice denied me my wish. Scien.
研究を打ち切るということは、すなわち人を救う権利を放棄することだ。世界を俯瞰する者としての責務を果たさないまま、逃げるわけにはいかない。それに、諦めてしまえば、いつか来るお前の死に対して、何の対策もできなくなる。それだけはごめんだ。
I raised my head a bit. Scien was looking straight at me with an expression devoid of any.
俺は、お前を独占したいと思う程度には気に入っている。あくまで、雑用係としてだがな。
That's romantic for you.
「だが、今のお前は気に食わん。いつものように、うじうじとした情けない姿を俺に見せてみろ。
The moment I heard his words, the tears I couldn't shed began flowing from my eyes. Yes, because I made that screenshot. It's actually the first screenshot I made in that game. Huh? Why am I hardly tried the tears that were coming out against my will. But I couldn't make them stop. What was I supposed to do, especially since I didn't have the right to cry? Please, don't look. He took my words in the opposite way and pressed my face against his shoulder.
泣きたければ泣け。それくらい受け止めてやる。
Even if the world doesn't forgive you, I will. That was what he whispered in my ear. Dolphin, everyone, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I knew I shouldn't, but the tears didn't stop as my frozen heart began to thaw. My tears flowed and wet his fresh bandages. All I could do now was cry. It was not the next day when we were able to discuss our next course of action in earnest. Eve and Hugo had just returned from their patrol around the surrounding area. The injured Scien was still in the bed, and the others took a seat nearby. The expression on everyone's faces was glum. It would be difficult to have a constructive conversation. Still, Scien started the conversation by bringing up something positive.
研究所の奪還ですか。
あまり現実的じゃねえな。この人数で攻め込むのはちと無謀すぎる。
それは承知の上で策を練ると言っている。
I wasn't sure what everyone would say. Mother was participating, but she didn't say a word. Her face was pale and she stared at the floor with hollow eyes. Scien let out a sigh, seeing how heavy the atmosphere in the room was.
すぐに答えを出せとは言わない。とりあえず外の状況はどうなっている？
完全に俺たちは指名手配扱いだな。特にあんたはこの国を呪う死神扱いって感じだ。
民衆たちがまだ懐疑的だったら救いの手があったかもしれないけど、あなたを信じてくれる人はいないと思います。
そうか。
何にせよ、シアンさんが動けるようになるまではマティスや自警団から情報収集をしておきます。それと研究所奪還を検討するためにも内部構造や詳細を教えてもらえると助かります。
それくらい構わん。俺は俺で奪還のための策を練っておく。それを聞いても納得できないようだったら改めて反対意見を聞こう。
言われなくともそのつもりだ。こっちは命がかかっているんだからな。
We were being chased and didn't have much freedom, but Scien hadn't lost his will to fight. But with the conversation over, Scien's body quickly went limp. His wounds must still be painful. Scien, please don't push yourself. Why don't you get some rest now?
わかった。少しの間休ませてもらう。
Scien lay down on the bed without objecting. In just a few seconds, he was fast asleep.
シアンさん、辛そうだね。
Yes, he's been pushing himself quite a bit.
まあ、あれだけの重傷で生きているだけでも奇跡みたいなもんだよな。
Another silence filled the room. Do you mind if I ask you something? Not wanting to waste even a second, I somehow mustered the strength to speak up. About Scien's idea of wanting to take back the institute. What are your thoughts?
俺は正直に言うと巻き込まれたくない。アドルフの仇は討ちたいとは思うが、敵があまりにも強大すぎる。言い方は悪いが、シアンさんが亡くなったらこっちは投降することだってできるわけだ。そうすりゃ手配だって解除できる。
でもそううまくいくかな。だってシスターサロメの施設は セレスやアドルフが所属していたってだけであんなことになってしまった。一度でもシアンさんの味方をした俺たちがそう簡単に見逃されるとは思えない。だったら俺は戦いたい。
Eve, you want to take back the Institute?
そうだね。だってシアンさんは冤罪なんだろう。このまま全ての罪を背負わされて殺されるのは。それにリライバーの研究だって彼がいてこそ進んでいるんじゃないか。
イブの言い分にも一理あるか。
Eve was willing to talk and listen to Bora, but even he couldn't endure the crimes of the royal family. He is so good. Best boy, actually. Which means the rest is... We then turned our attention to Mother. It seemed like she heard what we said, as she slowly looked up after noticing that we were looking at her.
王家を潰すべきよ。
She mumbled to herself. Huh?
研究所を取り戻したところであの王族たちが生きている限り何度でも同じことが繰り返されるわ。本当に奪還したいというのなら奴らを皆殺しにするしかない。
She said so in a very calm voice, but cold sweat rolled down her backs as the intense pressure fell from her.
まあその意見はもっともですけど。
でもそれはいくらなんでもアドルフたちの無念は俺だって晴らしたいですけど、さすがにやりすぎなんじゃ。
我が子が殺されたっていうのに黙って指をくわえていろというの？あなたたちは王族がどれだけ下船なのか知らないからそんな悠長なことが言えるのよ。幸せだった私にあいつらが何をしたのか。
Mother looked worse with each word she muttered. She began to speak faster and faster until...
あいつらは私の子供家族を殺したんだよ。それに自分たちの利益のために国を。
シスターサロメ、どうしたんですか？
Mother, are you okay? Something was definitely wrong, as we couldn't hear a word she was saying now. We looked on in confusion, unable to get through to her when...
何をしている？
Scien woke up from his sleep from all the commotion. Scien, something's terribly wrong with Mother. Hearing me plead for help, Scien squinted his eyes and looked at Mother.
ああ、リライバーによくある症状だ。興奮しすぎるとメモリーの処理が間に合わなくなることがある。
何か対処法はあるんですか？
とにかく落ち着かせるしかない。ベッドにでも寝かせてやれ。
わかった。セレス、彼女のそばについてやってくれ。
Okay. Eve and Hugo briskly lifted Mother and carried her away to another room. Pretty much. Some time had passed. Mother, how do you feel? I slowly peeked inside after giving her some time to rest.
セレス、さっきはごめんなさいね。変な取り乱し方をしてしまって。
Thank goodness, he's our usual mother. I let out a sigh of relief and walked over to her side with an old tea set on a serving plate. Mother, are you thirsty? Here, please drink this. We found some wild tea leaves outside so that we could brew.
ありがとう。本当なら私がしっかりしなきゃいけないのに情けないわね。
Please, don't say that. Anyone would feel the way you did after experiencing what happened. She went quiet again. I bet no matter how much time passed, she would never be able to talk coolly about the tragedy at the orphanage.
どうしてこんなことになったのかしら。
Well, I couldn't respond to her question. Mother probably heard on the way here what happened at the institute when we were attacked, but I need to tell her what happened myself. After all, it's my responsibility. Let me explain.
そういうことが言いたいわけじゃないの。
Huh?
ずっと一緒にいるんだもの。あなたたちが私に隠れてシアンの味方をしていたことくらい気づいていたわ。それにアドルフ自身がそれらしいことを言っていたしね。
Mother, I could feel her love and compassion from the words she spoke to me without laying, as well as a great deal of regret. I'm very sorry if I had acted so mindlessly.
だから謝らなくていいのよ。相談してくれなかったのはお母さんとしては寂しかったけれど、そうじゃなくてね。今回のことは私への天罰なんじゃないかって思えたのよ。
Divine punishment? That was completely the opposite of what Mother deserved. But you're the one who raised us when no one else was willing to take us in. There is no way a kind person like you deserve to be punished, Mother. Mother smiled sadly.
私はね、慈善事業として施設を経営していたわけじゃないの。この国の未来を担う優秀な子供を選別していただけよ。
Selecting? What do you mean by that? For what
私
purpose?
とシアンが前々から知り合いだったのは知っているでしょう。それは才能のありそうな子を施設で育てて、彼のもとに研究員の卵として引き渡していたからなの。そういう意味で私は彼の支援者だったのよ。
I never knew. It must have been a secret that she hadn't even disclosed to Adolphe. But what's so bad about that? You were raising the children to become the future of this country.
それだけじゃないわ。あなたを施設に引き取ったのはその体質を利用するためだったのよ。
You mean me?
あなたが起こすと言われている不幸、この国にまとわりついている死の呪いに酷似しているでしょ。だから私、あなたが本当にこの国を呪う死神の生まれ変わりか関係者の血筋なんじゃないかと思っていたの。それにアドルフもあなたほど目立った体質ではないけど、普通の人より呪いの進行が遅かったでしょ。
Now that you mention it, Adolphe was so strong and healthy, I sometimes forgot he was 21. Oh, that hits hurt. That hits hard. That's so related.
観察結果次第ではいつでもあなたたちをシアンに渡すつもりでいたわ。すべては国の呪いを解くため、国の礎とするために。
So you mean Adolphe and I we were actually destined to end up being tested inhumanly like those criminals. And this was going to happen through the mother who raised and guided us. Noticing my expression, Mother continued to speak sadly.
昔の私だったら犠牲を前提とした研究なんて絶対に協力しなかったわ。生きるためだとしても品性だけは売り渡したくないものだけど、それ以上に王家に対する焦りがあって。
She said that there was a reason she wanted to leave the curse of death so badly. She slowly began to explain. And no, well, it's complicated. But no. Gently reminder. Dahat had a mother. He had mother. I became a reliable around 60 years ago through the use of the technology Scien developed when I was 21 years old. Back then I lived in harmony with my child who was left behind after my kind husband passed away from illness. I was bothered by the curse that encroached upon the country and the ethos of its
リ
citizens.
ライバー技術があれば我らは不滅だ。
いくら死んだとしてもリライバーになれば転生できるのだから。
Using the newly found reliver technology was no reason for people to take their lives so lightly and accept death so readily. Which was why I said,
この国の倫理観は間違っている。リライバー化の成功だけで満足してはいけない。私たちは他国に存在するという普通の人間になる努力をするべきだ。
and with that, I began research the curse from a different point of view. But that didn't last long. Because I was pursuing the mystery behind the curse, the royal family feared that it would invite disaster and tried to kill me. Because of that, I was separated from my only child and met Scien by coincidence during my time in hiding. As you well know, Scien was born genius and the savior who extended the people's lifespans through reliver technology. Which was why I thought he would dismiss my ideas, but surprisingly, our objectives were the same, as we both thought to lift the curse. So I decided to cooperate with Scien and went into hiding in Scien.
それからは本当にいろいろなことがあったわ。設立したばかりのエクソシスト教団に入って呪いについて研究をと訴えたこともあるの。でも結局そこも追放されてしまった。そしてついには愛する子まで殺されて。
Mother.
それでも諦められなかった。シアンに協力していればいつか呪いや王家にも打ち勝てると思ったから施設の責任者になったのも全てはそのためだったのよ。
Mother's shoulders slumped as she finished her story. She must have remembered the suffering she went through back then. I didn't know Mother had such a past. Mother, Salome. She offered support to Scien by raising children and sending those with talent to work as researchers at the institute. She originally took the heroine into her care as a possible key to uncovering the truth behind the curse of death. Mother had spoken so much as though everything needed to be let out. Next, she began to explain the truth behind that fire from before.
そうそう。以前ミロがあなたに薬を盛ろうとしたことがあったでしょ。
Yes, Eve almost died after shielding me from that horrible explosion.
実はあの薬私の部屋から盗んだものだったの。昔から呪いについて研究したりしていたから一応そういうものも持っているのよ。私には科学者としての才能がないから全ては無駄だったけれどね。ただどうしてあの薬品で爆発が起こったのかは私にもよくわからないわ。
So that was it. I felt that the discomfort I felt at the time had dissipated a little. So that's why Milo didn't say where he got it from. He didn't want anyone suspicious of Mother. Mother knew that, which was why she didn't reprimand Milo too harshly.
ここまで話せばわかるわよね。私は天罰を受けるに値する人間なの。自分の信念のために家族を犠牲にし、今もなおあなたたちを利用しようとしている。そういう浅ましい女なの。
Mother's voice was quiet and remorseful. It was true that I felt a sting when Mother said I had been one of her research subjects, but I don't think so. There was no way I believed that the love she gave me all these years was fake. Mother, you did what you could to try and keep me and Adolf from Scien. And I don't recall you ever testing me or even trying to get some of my blood. Mother, you always thought about us first and protected us with all your might. So, why? If you really wanted to find a way to lift the curse, then you wouldn't have warned us not to go near Scien.
それは
A few seconds of silence. Mother began to speak in a trembling voice.
家族だと思ってしまったからね。最初は確かに打算から接触したわ。でもあなたたちと暮らしていくうちにかけがえのない存在になって、子供がいる幸福を思い出させてくれたあなたたちをとてもじゃないけど研究材料として提供する気になんてなれなかった。それだけのことよ。
Mother squeezed out her laughing words. After hearing her speak, I spread my arms, which once held Adolphe, and embraced Mother. Then everything's fine. Whatever your initial intentions were, you still kept us safe and didn't betray us for anything.
そんな簡単なことじゃ。
Things don't have to be complicated. Mother, I'm still here, alive and well because you loved me. And Adolphe joined the Corps to try and keep everyone safe, because he wanted to repay your kindness. I didn't want her to think she wasn't a good mother. So regardless of the situation, there is only one person we can call our mother, and that's you. I don't want anyone else. Mother, I could laugh, cry, hope, and feel despair. I felt human emotions because of her. She showered me with love and gave birth to the person I was today. I embraced her with all my might, so that she would know how I really felt. I could feel Mother trying her best to keep from crying. It must be her pride as a mother not wanting anyone to see her cry. So instead she wrapped her arms around me.
ありがとう。私にとってもあなたたちは大切な子供よ。お腹を痛めて産んでいなくとも大切な家族だわ。
Her hug was warm and very different from what I experienced with Scien yesterday. We held each other tightly until our cold bodies finally became warm again. Mother, what are you going to do now? We're probably going to end up working with Scien to take back the institute.
奪還についてはもちろん手伝うつもりよ。けれど王家についてはもう少し考えてみるわ。自分の人生を全て投げ打ってここまで生きてきたのよ。今さら後戻りなんてできない。大事な我が子をたくさん失ったのだからなおさらだわ。
Mother clenched her fist.
だから私はシアンの味方をする。そうすることが呪いの解明と腐りきった王家を滅ぼす近道になるのならば、もはやこれは執念と意地よ。感情として継続されていなくても記憶はその無念を覚えているから。
Mother, her grudge against royal family would not be alleviated so easily. If I could, I would curse those men who left as they executed Adolphe. But I still hoped that there was at least one person in the royal family worth saving. Which was why I couldn't fully agree with killing everyone.
それにしてもさすがシアンね。こんな窮地に陥っても絶対に諦めないなんて。
Yes, I feel like he's moving on persistence and stubbornness just like you.
それはきっと彼にとって死の呪いに打ち勝つことが生きる目的になっているせいでしょうね。
Purpose?
ええ、きっとその決意だけは何があったとしても揺るがないと思うわ。私とシアンはいわば呪いに挑む同盟者だもの。 その気持ちはよくわかるの。
Their determination was something I didn't have in the life I lived up to this point. Scien had been challenging the curse of death, dedicating his whole life to find an answer. Challenge the curse? Wait, why? I looked up to how strong he was all this time, and yet, for some reason, those words didn't seem to move me at all.
俺が率いるゼロ班はその感情をあくまで記号とみなし関与せず、より効率よく死の呪いに対抗できる肉体的に優れた耐久度の高いリライバーを作ることを目的とした派閥、いわば生存重視の効率派。この国に救う死神の呪いを完全に打破する方法を探すこと、つまり根本的な解決こそが俺の最終的な目標だ。
The conversation I had with Scien about the curse flashed through my mind. What was this feeling? I didn't think Scien and Mother were wrong for resisting this country, but uh-huh. A strange feeling lingered in my heart. And here, I would probably suggest us to make a pause. So, I hope you will join me on taking a break. Please take care of yourself. Find something for yourself to bite on, to drink, to take care of other bodily needs. And we will meet here again in 15 minutes from now on. And here I am back. At your service, if I may say so myself. And I hope you are here as well. So please, if you are, tell me about it. Did I make save? I did. Options, display, text speed, transparency, sound, skip choice. And skip and yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Finally, we have all the information on reliable technology. We have quite full information on Scien Brofiise up to this moment. Hello, Lost. Thank you for being here. I'm grateful. Okay, so I guess we can continue then. Mother finally regained her composure, and we formally began our discussion of taking back the institute. Ah, sorry, I didn't know. Just stay quiet, so I wasn't sure. And I assumed you could have continued playing Fatal Frame. We decided to put our plan into action a few days later, after Cian's expected recovery. Eve and Hugo began the plan by plotting a route and estimating obstructions based on the map and blueprints of the Institute. Mother was working with them to find a way to safely lead civilians from danger using information she got from Mathis. As for Scien, he was focused on his own recovery while I attended to his needs. But he continued to work on reliable research in the meantime. Scien, do you really need to do more research at a time like this?
必要なことだからだ。
Scien winced in pain as he continued to write something in bed. He was doing what he could to fight despite his situation. Ah, understandable. Well, I'm glad you had some sleep. Sorry for trouble. You need to take better care of your body. You don't have another one. Still, there was something getting in Cian's way aside from the wound he sustained from Brofiise. His days were numbered by the curse, as if the Grim Reaper was holding its scythe over him. I had heard that cough many times before, but now the curse were coming from Cian's mouth. I understand, I know. Scien? Perhaps it would be best if you called it a day and had some rest.
お前も分かっているだろう。今の俺にそんな時間はない。
Well, he was sliced almost in half by Burrow, and his days are numbered because he's dying due to the curse of death. And finally, he's covered with all these scars because he had experimented on his own body first and foremost to create and advance the reliver technology. And he needs to. His own body is a prototype reliver, so he needs to perform countless surgeries and all. Make it work. Well, yes, but Scien ignored my suggestion and continued his work. My being here would probably get in the way of his efforts and waste his remaining energy. Let me go to another room so that I don't get in.
ここにいろ。
Scien looked at me and told me to stay. Huh? But
今は手持ち無沙汰でも何かすぐに用事ができるかもしれない。お前は俺の雑用係だ。だからそばにいろ。
such a tsundere.
返事は
Yes. As ordered, I sat down on the bed next to him.
俺の体のことだったら気にする必要はない。研究所を奪還する際にまずリライバー設備を奪えばいい。そこで新たな肉体を作る。
When I looked at him with concern, he continued calmly.
しかし肺を強化したクローン体は失敗だったな。強化の仕方が良くなかったのか、理論自体が間違っていたのか。何にせよ次は長持ちする肉体を作らなければ。
Last longer? The strange feeling inside from when I spoke to Mother returned. It was starting to bother me once again. Scien. I still didn't know what the strange feeling was, so I carefully chose my words. Scien, are you only focusing all your efforts on developing reliver technology? Let me rephrase that. Why are you researching a way to strengthen reliver?
愚問だな。もちろん呪いに対抗するためだ。何度も繰り返し言っているだろう。
Yeah, that's right. I heard from Mother that you two are like lies challenging the curse. And you mentioned yourself that you wanted to save us by lifting the curse of death from this country.
それがどうした？
I'm curious. I could see now. I finally knew what this strange feeling was. Scien, you've been researching reliver technology, but you haven't been researching the curse itself, have you? Is reviving repeatedly into reliver bodies and clinging to our life really the answer we need to defeat the curse? It might be just me, but it looks like you're just finding ways to buy time endlessly.
なんだと？
What felt strange to me was his inconsistency. If he really wanted to find a way to lift the curse, he should research the curse itself and not try to find ways to coexist with it. But Scien, perhaps your objective and method have switched places. Scien's face went pale hearing my thoughts.
違う。これは呪いと向き合うために必要な研究だ。寿命が短ければ呪いを解明する時間も取れない。俺が国民たちの寿命を伸ばすためにどれだけの研究を重ねたと思っている。呪いによる虚弱状態への進行を減速させるため、クローン体の脳、心臓、筋力、神経など すべての機能を調整した。お前には理解できないことも数多くしている。意見を言うのは構わないが、もっと対局を見てものを。
Scien didn't finish his sentence, suddenly going silent. I had no intention of changing my opinion, as it was he who taught me to stay true to my convictions. Was I wrong in what I said? 10 seconds passed, then 20. A minute passed after what felt like eternity.
時間稼ぎの研究。
Scien suddenly began to mumble, as if questioning himself.
今回問題になった肺の研究も、あくまでより強靭なリライバーを作り、時間稼ぎをするためだった。そうだ。技術を進ませ苦痛を和らげたとき、俺は何をしていた？より丈夫なリライバーを作るために新たな研究をしようとしていた。死の呪いから目をそらして。
Scien began to cough wildly after muttering to himself. His palms were covered in blood. Scien! He looked at his hands as his shoulders began to shake.
俺は呪いを解くのではなく、耐えることに執着していたのか。呪いの正体がわからないと無意識に敗北を認めて。最初はこうではなかったはずだ。少なくともあの女と手を組んだ時は呪いに立ち向かおうとしていた。確かにリライバーを生み出すまでは早かった。だがそれから先はどれだけ研究を重ねても呪いを解明することすらかなわず。そう、解く以前の問題だった。犠牲だけが増えていった。リライバーという延命手段を得てもなお呪いには手も足も出ない。それに気がついた時、俺は
Scien, I didn't think what I said to him was wrong. Thank you for reminding me. I forgot to take it. But it wasn't something I should have said to someone trying to recover. I reached out to him as I scolded myself for making a bad call pun. His laugh seemed unfitting of the situation. Scien was laughing heartily as I looked at him in surprise. I had never seen that expression on his face before, and with tears in his eyes. Scien? What's the matter? Are you wrong?
安心しろ。俺はどこもおかしくはない。いや、むしろ今までがおかしかったんだ。感謝するぞ雑用係。お前のおかげで完全に目が覚めた。この俺に弱さを自覚させたことを称賛に値する。こんなに笑ったのは初めてだ。くそ、腹が痛い。
Scien? I wasn't sure how to react as Scien continued to laugh like a completely different person. Scien looked at me in a way opposite to my utter confusion about the situation. He looked at me joyfully with gleaming eyes.
そうだ。よくよく考えれば派閥争いなど無意味だった。ダーハとだって勝手にやらせておけばよかったのだ。ではなぜ俺は奴らと争っていたのだと思う？雑用係、お前にはわかるか？
I can't?
答えは簡単だ。感情など無駄だという考えを広め、自分と同じ思想のものを増やし、共感を得たかったからに他ならない。共に呪いから目を背けてくれる同志を俺は求めていたのだ。同時に感情など余計なものがあれば作業効率が落ちてしまうと無意識のうちに考えていた証明でもある。俺の本当の使命はこの国のために呪いに縛られない完全なる生を与えることだというのに、自分から不完全な姿を欲していた。俺は無意識的に助けを求めていたのか。
The gift of God, Scien Brofiise. After years and
なんて情けない。あろうことか。神と名乗った身で、俺は人に落ちかけていた。
he regained his consciousness from birth. I somehow spoke up as his mad laughter filled the air. So, in other words, you're going to give up on fighting the truth behind the curtain.
誰がいつそんなことを言った？
Huh? But
確かにこれまではそうだった。しかし今からは違う。そう。お前の一言で目が覚めた。俺は神に戻る。いや、さらなる領域に至る。誰の手も借りない。誰も犠牲にしない。この身ただ一つで呪いを解明してみせる。今まで散々くだらないとバカにしてきた感情によって。
his artificial eyes sparkled brilliantly. His eyes contained the heat of passion and madness in bringing people to life. I was completely mesmerized. So this is the real Scien Brofiise, the person I so looked up to, the amazing person I fell in love with. Was a blinding and powerful person he was. As I continued to look at him with infatuation, Scien spoke.
どうだ？まだ文句あるか？
No, not at all. You're going to find true salvation for the people without sacrificing anything. I don't want the dolphin and the children to have died for nothing. I will do everything I can to help you.
いい顔をするようになったじゃないか。どうせ俺たちはこのままでは処刑されるのを待つだけの身だ。思いも感情もただの記録となって消えるのみ。
Scien suddenly took my hand.
だったら自分たちの手で未来を切り開くだけだ。
He made a bold declaration. She can't. She loves him. 4 days had passed, and Scien finally recovered. We decided to discuss the essentials of the plan to take back the institute.
研究所奪還作戦の最中にあなたのクローン体を作り出すのがまずは最優先ということね。
そうだ。
でもそうなるとかなり難しいですね。教えてもらった内部構造によれば培養器があるのは中枢です。
当然敵に見つかるだろうし、この少人数で真正面からぶつかり合うのはまずいよな。
なら敵を味方につければいい。
The human turned god spoke so confidently that we looked at him with confusion.
研究員たちをどうやって？あなたへの指示は王族が流したデマでかなり下がっているはずよ。それに今は対立していた別派閥が実権を握っているのでしょ。
その通りだ。そいつらを寝返らせる。
The whole house felt like it shook despite there being only a few of us here. So, how? The researchers who were on the HOTS team were very happy that they could finally conduct the research they wanted. I doubt they have any reason to turn and come to our
簡単な話だ。それ以上のメリットを提示すればいい。例えば、あいつらにとっての悲願を、全感情を持続できるリライバー、すなわち心臓、メモリーの増強を、俺がその場で実現してやるとかな。
それってそれなりの研究者たちがずっと実現できなかったことですよね。そんなすぐにできるものなんですか？
俺ならできる。
すごい自信だな。
I thought you said that emotions were inefficient. I responded in a decent way.
まあ、 俺も少しばかり思うところがあってな。それにこの状況ではなりふり構っていられん。
Scien shifted his eyes away from me and responded, as if wanting to change the subject. Is what your suggestion going to require test subject?
確かに犠牲は出る。が、出ないとも言える。
どういうことですか？
少なくともお前たちが想像しているような他者の犠牲は出さん。この身一つで全てを成してみせると死神に誓ったからな。
そうは言っても具体的な話を聞かないことには賛同できないわ。その方法教えてもらえるのよね。
ああ、この研究の肝は。
Scien smiled eerily. He then explained to us how to create relivers that could retain past emotions.
というわけだ。
We were totally speechless. Our minds couldn't process what he just told us.
そんなこと本当にできるのか？つか、あんた正気か？
理論的には分からなくもないけど、下手をしたらシアンさん死ぬんじゃ。
手際が悪かったらそうなるだろうな。
Yes, it's Salama Mother. Mother's face was completely pale, as she hadn't expected to hear that. To be honest, they wanted to do everything they could to stop him from resorting to such a dangerous plan. A side of me wanted to suggest that he become a normal lifer first, and think of his next step then. She is pretty. But what I said aloud was, I agree with Scien.
セレス。
We really don't have a choice apart from what he said, and
どうせ俺たちはこのままでは処刑されるのを待つだけの身だ。思いも感情もただの記録となって消えるのみ。だったら自分たちの手で未来を切り開くだけだ。
I believe in you, Scien. No matter what stood in my way, with his dedication to saving human life, I trusted him from the bottom of my heart. He responded to my unwavering words with a gentle
分
smile.
かったよ。俺も全力で君を手伝う。シアンさんとも改めて友人になりたいしね。
まあ、それ以外に道はないからな。研究所中枢に入り込むのは、この間通った地下通路を使えばなんとかなるかもしれないな。さすがにあれだけの穴をこの短期間で塞ぐことはできないだろう。あそこから登っていけばいい。
ただ見張りはいるかもしれないから、そこはしっかり気をつけよう。
Everyone was back to their usual selves as we continued our conversation more aggressively.
その後は今説明された通り、メモリーを増強したクローン体にシアンが生まれ変わればいいのね。
そういうことだ。自身の肉体を証拠に俺がダハとの研究を支持すると表明すれば、あいつらもこちらに下るだろう。結局あいつらは俺と同じ研究者。自分たちの目的さえ果たせれば王家の命令など二の次だ。
But that wouldn't free you from any punishment they have planned, right?
冤罪の証拠集めは後回しでいい。とにかく俺がさらに性能の良いリライバーを作ったという事実が必要なんだ。それさえあれば状況はひっくり返るし、王家だって俺を殺せんだろう。あとは今まで通り、いや今まで以上に王家を脅しつつ手綱を引いてやれば。
その必要はないわ。
The mood in the room shifted with a cold voice. Mother?
研究所の奪還作戦については私も文句はないわ。民衆を味方につけるためには奇跡を目の前で見せつけるしかない。ただ 王族まで生かし続ける必要はある？あんな連中生かしておいたところで得られるものは何もないわ。むしろほとぼりが冷めればまた今回のような事件を引き起こすに決まっている。
Mother, your hatred of the royal family is intense.
それに新所長だってすっかり王家の言いなりなのでしょ。現に施設への襲撃だって止めなかった。そんな男がまたシアンの部下になることを素直に受け入れられるのかしら。あなたたちは人の欲を甘く見すぎている。だから新所長だけは王家と共に始末した方がいい。これが私の出した結論よ。
Mother was speaking very calmly, but she couldn't hide the dark flame of hatred for the royal family burning in her eyes. Even Hugo kept quiet. Not because they were afraid, but because they knew they weren't the ones.
非現実的だ。お前は簡単に殺せと言うが、いつどうやってやるつもりだ？
それは奪還作戦の混乱に乗じて。
今までの話を聞いていなかったのか？今回の作戦は隠密が重要となってくる。そんな目立つようなことをしている暇はない。あの鬱陶しい王家を排除できればと考えているのは俺も同じだ。だがやるにしても踏むべき手順というものがある。
では奪還後に王族たちを処刑してくれるというの？
それもできない。排除はするが命までは奪うつもりはない。
どうして？
そもそも研究所の奪還と権利の独占はイコールじゃない。これはわかるか？いいか？俺がまた所長に返り咲いたところで、この衛兵たちや国民たちを意のままに操れるわけじゃない。俺たち研究員はあくまでも王家に媚びを売られている立場だ。だから俺にできるのは王家の権力を弱体化させることだけ。奴らが好き勝手できないように脅しをかけて都合のいい傀儡とするのが落としどころとしてはちょうどいい。俺はこの国の王になるつもりはない。
だけどあいつらは私の大切な子供たちを。
Mother, can you please accept what Scien is planning?
セレス、あなたまでそんな。アドルフや子供たちがあんな無残に殺されたのよ。それなのにどうして？
I also hate the royal family, and after learning of your path, I can't tell you not to hold a grudge against them. But we're talking about ways to move forward now, not seek vengeance.
前に進む。
The objective of this operation isn't only to try and prove our innocence from false claims. We're trying to truly find a way to face the curse of death. Scien promised me yesterday. He is going to use reliable technology not to extend life, but to defeat the curse. I believe that our fight will give us the opportunity to create a new future where the curse no longer exists. So please, Mother, please don't use Scien's mission for Adolphus and the children's death. Please. Please don't use this as a reason to kill the royal family. If you really want to use him, do so for salvation, not hatred. I pleaded to her in a shaken voice, knowing how cruel I was being. But Mother covered her mouth with her hand and quickly ran out of the room. Mother.
大丈夫でしょうか？
何にせよ、あいつは作戦に参加させない方が良さそうだな。計画実行時に暴走する可能性がある。万が一戦闘になった場合、足手まといになるだろうし。離脱はちょうどいい。ここで待機させておけ。
わかりました。じゃああとは作戦をもう少し詰めるか。シアンさんの寿命のこともあるし、できれば明日にでも実行したいところだが。
セレス、君はどうする？危険だからシスターサロメと一緒に残ってもらってもいいけど。
No. I want to go too. I might be burdened, but I think you'll need as many people as possible to watch over Scien while he makes his new
わかっ
body.
た。でも絶対に無茶はしないで。危険だと思ったらすぐに逃げるんだよ。君は盾なんかじゃなくて一人の女の子なんだから。
Okay.
よし、それじゃあ作戦中の配置を決めておくか。自警団の連中にも仕事をしてもらうとして。
Even Hugo continued to talk about the route to take to get to the laboratory as Scien looked at them from the side. We were finally going to confront the curse. Remembering his words made my heart race with excitement. That's right. If we're going to lift the curse, then I should tell Scien about my power. Uncle strictly told me not to, but I felt like I was going to regret it if I didn't tell him now.
なんだ、作戦について何か質問でも。
I quietly called Scien outside and began to speak as he leaned against the wall. I think I can help with discovering the truth behind the curse.
なんだと？
Scien, you know that everyone calls me Death, right? What if that wasn't just an insult? What if I was deeply connected to the curse of death? What would you do?
どういうことだ？
I took a deep breath, then responded with resolve. It seems as if I have power to accelerate the curse. I've killed many people until now because of that. My power isn't active now, but I'm sure I'll become death again sometime. Which is why you might be able to uncover the truth behind the curse if you experiment on my body. I hadn't seen Scien looked at me with open eyes like that before. But then he quickly shook his head as if trying to get something off his mind.
必要ない。
Huh?
さっきの俺の言葉を聞いていなかったのか？俺は自分一人でこの国の呪いを解くと決めた。他に犠牲を出すつもりはない。お前のような暗い女一人に研究を左右されるほど落ちぶれてもいないしな。それに、未来の伴侶となる女を好き好んで殺す男がこの世のどこにいる？
My mind went completely blank. The words he just said were what I could only dream of, but it happened so suddenly that I couldn't even blush. It took a few seconds for me to realize that my heart was racing madly. You missed the confession from Scien. But welcome back, Club. I'm glad you're alive. Seeing me so confused, Scien looked at me with great interest and a touch of glee. And, unfortunately, while appreciating you being alive, Club, that is where I will stop. And on the next stream, we'll go through all the bad ends of Scien's route, and maybe even start the next route. But I'm not sure on that one. Thank you for staying with me. I deeply appreciate your company. It's a great joy and honor to have you. If you don't mind, I'm going to rate someone. For example, I'm going to rate Lazy Night. Probably I will have the next stream tomorrow, but I'm not yet sure. I'll have an announcement later. Please take care of yourself, everyone. And goodbye.